So, today's lecture, will scare you a bit about this slides here, but we're going to talk a bit about visualization. And specifically, I'm going to use a tool called ParaView. And in the next worksheet, you will be adding the ability to export your results and use it in ParaView using something called PyVTK. So I will go through just basics on ParaView today, and what the application is, and then how you can use a certain Python library to generate the files that you can use with ParaView. The second part after the break will be about high-performance computing, and how you can use Python and the applications you have developed to actually run on large computers as well. So ParaView is a visualization software and developed at Sandia National Laboratory in the US. It is a fairly new application. It's developed in the beginning of 2000, and it's designed to be a Swiss Army knife for any kind of visualization you want to do. It's open source and free to use, so it's good to know that you can use it when you like without any restrictions. So what is ParaView? I already told you, scalable, open source. It can also be used for distributed computation. So if you have large data sets, it can divide them up on multiple computers to do the slicing and examination of the data set. It's flexible. It has an intuitive user interface. I can argue a bit that it's intuitive after you understand the workflow. Otherwise, it's a bit hard to understand. But I will try to explain it for you so you can use it well. So here are some examples of what you can do with this tool. It can range from small things, but also to large things like storms, weather, fluid simulations, structural mechanics, molecule visualization, and stuff like that. So it can basically visualize anything that you have data for. And also in almost any size that you can imagine. Except it has to fit in your computer or have to go to a supercomputer. Yeah, it's used by a lot of people. And here are some examples. Now they're a bit old numbers here, but you can see here that you can visualize almost 6 billion structured cells, 250 million unstructured cells. So it has a really large capability of visualizing a lot of result data. I mean, you probably have 1,000 or 2,000 elements or something in your problem now, but this can scale to any size. So this is the architecture application. So what we are going to work with is the top part here, the ParaView client. There are several other stuff here. It actually has its own built-in Python interpreter as well that you can use. It's called PyPython, and with that you can access the functionality of ParaView from the command line in a Python script as well. It's built on top of on top of a UI interface library called Qt, which you know. So it uses the Qt C++ version of Qt to implement its user interface. Then there is a server here underneath, which is in the middle. It's built into the ParaView client, so you don't have to think about it. And the most important part is the VTK part. That is the visualization toolkit. So that is a large C++ library for visualizing scientific data. And then it has a low-level libraries here for graphics and parallel processing as well. It started in 2000, and there is a company developing and also supporting it called Kitware. And they also develop several visualization applications, but also some development tools that is widely used today. The current version is 5.11, I think. So we are still on 5. And now it also has updated to OpenGL 3.2, which is a new version of the hardware acceleration library that implements the actual drawing on the screen. Skip that one. So what is visualization? So scientific visualization is going from the left side here, where you have tables of data that you want to comprehend in different ways. So the goal is to go from data, numerical data, to something that you can see and understand easily. And this data can be terabytes or large. So it's important that you can comprehend and understand the results here. So the right side here is what you can get out from ParaView. So this is the space shuttle here in a wind tunnel, virtual wind tunnel simulation. So you can see the pressure fields on the body of the aircraft. So ParaView can visualize different kinds of data. So you can use uniform rectilinear data. So basically that is bricks connected together with a rule. Non-uniform rectilinear data, there is data where basically the same as the first one, but you can control the distances between the elements. Curvilinear, where you have a swept structured data. So structured data means that you have a rule. I told about the mesh generation, that you can go to any element using a certain rule. And you can also use unstructured data in the form of polygonal data. And that is what you have actually in this course. The triangles that you mesh with Gmesh is unstructured. And so we will use the polygonal data structures in ParaView to visualize those. And you have completely unstructured. That means also that you can have different kinds of elements mixed in a single model. And here is the three-dimensional models, but it's perfectly fine to do 2D visualization in ParaView as well. So if you open ParaView, you will there are books written about ParaView, but there's actually a lot of information in the help guide of the application, pointing you to web-based resources for using this application. And I will try to, instead of going through all the slides here, I will go to the actual application here instead and demonstrate how you use it. So this is the basic layout of the application. Let's see if I can. So on the left side here, you have two parts. You have something called a pipeline browser. And here is where you load your data. And then from your data, you can add filters and different processing tools that can generate the final visualization afterwards. So you add things to this pipeline browser. On the bottom side here, you have properties and information, and that is properties of the things you load in the browsers. If you click something here, it will you can change the properties below here. On the right side here is the visualization output. So here you will have your data will be visualized here. And just to kind of show you here, so and then to illustrate some of the things you can do, I will create a sphere here now and try to do some visualization on it. So if you don't have any data, you can use the sources tab here to just do a, let's see if we can do a sphere like this. And now you can see here that a sphere appeared in our pipeline browser. And this is something you have to get used to with that application, is that nothing happens directly, because sometimes the data can be terabytes and you can't really do the visualization in real time. So that's why there is a shut eye here. That means that the sphere is not visible. And you see also there's a green button here that appears here. So every time you add something, there is a green button appearing here. That means that you need to click this button to make something happen here. So now you can see here I got a sphere here in my right side here. And you can look here, if you press the left button here, you can rotate around the coordinate system here. You can also change the coordinate system up here and go back to the different positions here. If you have an object loaded here, you can change the representation of the object by clicking the part up here. You can see I had a surface here. That means that it is represented by a shaded light surface. If I want to see the individual part, I can add surface with edges. And you can see here that it's made up of triangles, and it's gray. You can also, if you have a large object that you can't render, you can also look at feature edges here, outline. So then you get a box here of the outline of your object. So if it's really large and you can't move it, you can put an outline here. You can look at the points. You can use just the wireframe here of the object. So let's keep the surface here, surface with edges, you can see here. So you can see here I have selected the sphere. I can now look at the properties here. And usually you have the basic properties of the selected object here in the first part. So you have center here is the center of the sphere. It's positioned in coordinate system 0, 0, 0. I can change the radius here to 1. And you can see every time I change anything, the green light lights up. And that means that something has changed, but it hasn't been applied to the right side here. So if I want to see the change, I press apply, and you can see that the sphere was increased. So let's go back here to 0.5, apply, like this. You can also change here, for example, there are theta resolution and phi resolution. That is, so if I do 16 here, this is the resolution of the sphere. So that is the sectors here, and if I increase the phi, I can increase the resolution in the other direction here as well. So then I also can change the color of the object. So in this case, we don't have any data, so it's just a pure geometric shape. It doesn't contain any information, but every part of this object can contain data. You can have data in the nodes. You can have vectors, you can have scalar data, you can have data in every cell, which is the element. It can also be vectors and scalars. So you can have multiple fields that you visualize here, but the sphere here does just have a color here. But what you can do is here, I can change the color. So I can do edit here, and I can do red here. Now I see the sphere is red. I can also change how reflective the sphere is by changing the specular here. And if I put it, you can see here that I got a more glowy sphere with better reflections here. If I do surface here, you can see like this. You can also add data access to your grid here, so you can see the scale of your object that you're visualizing. There are some other things that you can do, but that's more advanced here. So here you can also see there is a normal, but it's not so interesting here. So what I'm going to do now is to show some things that you can do. So you have the sphere here. If I want to manipulate this, I can add filters to it. And filters are things that manipulate the object in certain ways. So if I do filters here, you can see here that there is a lot of them. So if I do here, this is all the things that you can apply to your visualization. So there's a lot of things built in. And I will see if I can, if you want to search, you can do like this and type, let's see if I can remember the one I wanted to do now. Yeah. There's a shrink. Yeah, it's difficult to see here, but if you press this, you can do. Let's see here. So there is a search bar here. A control space will bring up the search bar. So if I do control space here, you can search here, and then you can search for the filter you want to apply. So then you shrink. Now I can see here that I have another object here in the toolchain. So first I have sphere that generates a sphere. Then shrink will shrink the elements of the different parts of the sphere. So in this case, it's default by 0.5. So if I press apply here, you can see it takes every element of the sphere and shrinks it by half. And you can also have opacity on this one here. You can change the color on this one as well. So in this way you can see that you start with the data and then you apply filters to your data and then build up the visualization like this. If you want to start from fresh, there is no, it works a bit different than Word. So if you want to start from the beginning, you do a reset of the application. That is this here reset session. So let's do that. So now we have an empty board again. And now I'm going to show you a more advanced example that is built in here. So there are some example visualization that you can use. So I will take, I will open the data set for that instead. Open.
Bara ta en typ av ett sätt. Tack för mig.
Okay. ParaView. Let's see here. Examples. This one here. So now I have loaded a data set here. You can see here that it shows you first what the fields that are present in the data set. And you can see here that you have speed, you have temperature, you have pressure, and those are node properties. Those are fields that are attached to the nodes. And if we want to look at this here, now we can press apply. Now you can see here that this is the data set I have. It's a cylinder with a hole, and here you have it's actually a heating element that is inserted in here, and this is the volume that we want to solve. But now you see that we just have a gray surface here. So if we want to see something field visualized on this surface, we need to go down to the coloring part here, and we have to select the field that we want to visualize. So in this case, let's see, we visualize the temperature field of this simulation. You can see here that something changed here. Problem is that we can't see really what's happening inside here because it's hidden from us. But you get the color scale here. You can see that the temperature is going from 290 to 910 degrees. So what we can do now is we can apply a filter to this model, so we can slice it in the middle and look inside. And you can see here on the top here we have some predefined filters that you can apply. So contour, that will plot contour lines. There is a clip that will clip the model. There is a slice that will just show a slice of the model. And there is also a threshold, which can limit the amount of data you visualize. There is what's this called? Glyph that can place glyphs where you have a flow field, for example. You can put arrows that is oriented in the flow. You can do stream tracer, which is a tool for generating streamlines to display lines that follow the flow of the field. If you have finite element applications, you can use warp by vector. That can use use a vector field to modify the mesh of your model. So you can visualize the displacement of a model, for example. So I'm going to use a slice here, a clip. So you can see if I press that, I get an icon here that shows a plane here. And you can see that it's sliced through. You can select here the different planes here. You can have X normal, you can have Y normal, so you can change the different orientation where you want to slice by default. You can also specify the plane using vectors here as well. So let's see here if I can do apply and see what happens. So now you can see here I've sliced the model. And now I can see the actual inside what's happening. So you can see that this heat is applied here, and here you can see the temperature field in the model. So if you don't want to see the plane, you can just uncheck show plane here, and then you get just a model like this. You can also see here that the data set from the beginning is actually automatically hidden. So you only see the last part of this pipeline. You can, of course, turn that on again, and you can see now it's hidden. But what we can do is we can actually keep them both shown, but we can, for the first part here, we can make it transparent. So opacity here, that is set the transparency of the model. So if I can move this around here, you can see here that I can make it transparent. So I can have a slice here and I can see the contours of the outer surface anyway. So now I want to add a visualization for there's a vector field there as well, so we can visualize how particles will flow in this heat field. So what we can do then is we can use a stream tracer to release particles in the volume here. So I press the stream tracer here, and now you see I don't want to have a. So by default it releases streams from a line, but what we want to do is we want to release streams here in a spherical area instead. So let's go in here and see here, see type point cloud, and then we can see here that we need to increase the sphere. So the streamlines will be released inside this sphere. So we'll make it a bit larger, 3.5. Okay, 4.5. So you can see here that you can already see that it releases streamlines in the model here. And we can remove the sphere now here, and we can also change the colors here of the streamlines. So now you can see here that coloring is done by temperature. So you can color anything by any field here. And you can also see that the streamlines uses the vector field here, V, to actually create the streamlines. And we can change here to have a solid color here instead. And then you can see better how the streamlines are formed. And what we also can do is now, we can make that a bit, we just turn that off, so now you can see the streamlines here. We can also make the clipped surface here a bit opaque, so you can see through that as well. And if we want to make the streamlines even more visible, we can apply another filter that makes the lines into tubes. So we select the stream tracer here, we create filters, we search for tube, and now we have to be a bit careful when we select the properties here. Number of size, that is the size in the tubes that we want to create. We compute the tube size here, so we'll try it out here. We put now you can see that we got, instead of lines, we got tubes, and sometimes it's a bit easier to see the actual flow, but they're a bit too big, so I will radius factor. How to change? Ah, sorry. There. perhaps we have a little bit too many streamlines here. So we can go back to stream tracer here, and we can change here that we want to have number of points here 50. So we get a bit less streamlines like this. Yep.
Är detta programmet byggt på fel eller vad?
Det är fel, ja. So it uses data result types from finite element, but this simulation is actually no, it's a heat simulation. So it's basically what you do into the temperature problem you have.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of data, but in 3D. But it's you will use it in 2D. So it's but it's the same principle. And you can color the streamlines here from a vector field. So we go to tubes here. So let's see if I want to color the streamlines from the temperature. You can do that. You can color by the pressure and different things. Also, you can color the velocity like this. So that was the streamline. So now I want to visualize the individual vectors in the field instead. So if we do, then we turn off this one, and we turn on this one again, and we make it. So in this time I want to create glyphs where you have vectors. So instead of slicing or erasing streamline, we use the glyph tool instead. And then we add, here we can select what kind of glyph we want to use. So you can use arrows for three-dimensional arrows that will be oriented according to the vector field. So we select the V here as a vector. We scale with the vector, the magnitude of the vector field. And let's see here what happens. Now you can see here I got arrows here representing the velocity vectors in the data structure here. So these are 3D arrows, can be a bit complicated to see, but what you can do then, you can do 2D glyphs instead. And that is similar to the arrows here, but they are using lines instead. So you can see here that there are line arrows instead of three-dimensional objects. And here you can also scale here how many arrows you want to visualize. So here you can see 5,000 arrows. I can do 1,000 here instead. Then you can see that you have less arrows here. Sometimes it can be too much to have too many arrows, so you have to reduce it. So this is how you use ParaView, a short introduction. So how does that connect to Python? So now you have your data in your application. You want to be able to export to ParaView to do fancy visualizations instead of the ones that we're doing here. So what ParaView can do is you can load files. Open here. And there is a file called, it supports a lot of files. You can use VTK files. Let's see here. They're also called .vtk, and those can be loaded into ParaView directly. So let's switch to different part here. So what we're going to do now, where did I do that? It shouldn't be there. We are going to use a library called PyVTK. It's not a graphical library, it's a library for generating VTK files. So files that contain the data that you have calculated in your application. And as I said before, VTK supports image data, rectilinear data, structured grid, unstructured points, polygonal data, and unstructured grid. So it supports a lot of different data types that you can generate and add to your visualization as well. So I'm not installing this. If you install CalFem, it will pull down the PyVTK automatically. So you have that module in your environment. So I will start with a really simple example here. So you import it using from PyVTK import star. You can also do PyVTK import VTK as VTK, but it's up to you. It's not very super important. So the first thing you will create it. So we are going to create a polydata structure. So that is polygons defined by coordinates. So here you define the points. These are the coordinates, and this is the topology. So here are 6 polygons that we are going to define. That defines the structure, the basic geometry. And then we want to add data to the points. So the actual computational result, we need to attach them to the points in some way. So we create something called point data with a class called point data, and we just give it a list of scalar values. So in this case, as we have we have 8 points here. And we need to specify 8 values here. So if we specify 8 values from 0 to 7, those will be attached to points in order as they are created here. And the important thing is that you should also name the data fields so that you can find them in ParaView. Because it's these names here that you can look up in ParaView to identify the fields of the different data. You can also add data to the cells themselves, so the elements of your results. You can add scalars. You can add normals. So that is normal is the surface direction of a plane to calculate lighting. You can add other stuff as well to the data structure here. The important thing is the point data and the cell data scalars, and you can add. So when you have all these things, you don't need to have point data or cell data. You need to have poly data at least, but then it's not so interesting. But then you attach point data at least to kind of make a visualization. And finally, you put everything together. You create a VTK object here with a class called VTK data, where you put structure, point data, and cell data as input. Then you can write these to file. And you can write them either as ASCII, that means that it's a text-based file format, or you can write them as a binary file. So I add them both here. So if I run these, I need to actually run them in order, like this, and like this, and like this. And now if you look at the file data here, we have example VTK, and I have an example 1 binary here VTK. So let's download this one here. Let's see, open that in ParaView. So now I do a reset here. Like that. And then I open the file here, so it should be in my downloaded folders. You see I have an example here. I open that one. So let's see, we just press and apply and see what we get. So we get a cube. And you can almost see that here if you look at, so you have 8 coordinates here. That is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I have polygons here. Those are the size here. If we do, so you can see here that I have, so the polygons are 4-sided, but they're always kind of divided into triangles here, even if they are not defined as such in the VTK here. And you can see here that we visualize sample scalars. That's what will be given in our when we wrote the file. So you can see here I have sample scalars is selected by default, and that is the data that is attached to the nodes. And you can see here from the color scale here, it starts by 0. It was the number we gave on the node with the scalars, and it goes to 7. So if you look here, data goes from 0 to 7. And we gave it the name cell scalars, or the sample scalars. And then we have cell scalars, that is data attached to the sides, and we have 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we change the coloring here to cell scalars, you can see here that I have solid color per side now. And the cell is actually these sides here that we defined. We have 6 sides, and they are differently colored depending on the value, and they go from 0 to 5, which is correct. There are some other things I will skip those. It's not relevant here. You can also, if you want to, we go back to the point sample scalars. You can change the color scales. So you have a color scale going from blue to red. You can change that by pressing, there is a folder with a heart that will bring up a color scale selection bar. So we can change it here, for example, for the MATLAB one here. Apply. And now you can see that you get a different color scale. And we can make it cool by making it reflective here as well. So that was a simple cube. So let's do reset here again. You can also do a structured data. So here I have structured points here, 3 by 4 by 6. And then I just add scalars to all the node points in this data structure here. So we just run this. Now you can see here I should have example 2 here. So let's download that one. So I'm running this in the Google Cloud, so I need to download the files here. If you run it locally, the files will appear on your computer. So now it's selected outline here. Sometimes it does this. I'm not sure when it does this, but so let's do. We look at the wireframe first. So you can see here I have a structured data structure. And if you look at the data, it was 3 by 4 by 6. So there are 3 points: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the data structure defined. And then you can see the scalars here are applied on each node of the data structure. So if we do the surface here, now you can see now I haven't colored it correctly here, so I need to select scalar 0 here. And as you can see here, I didn't give it a name. And then it names the field with a number here. So scalar 0, that is the, and if you have more fields, it will call scalar 1, 2, 3, and so on. Now you can see here, I can see how it's colored inside here. And you can see that it's at some points there it goes up to 50 here and down to 25, and it's 0 in most places here. And what we can do then is we can do a slice, of course, here to look inside. And here you can see the values inside here. So this is where you can do structured data. You can also do, you can load data as well. So in this case, I will reload the example 2, but I will only load the structure. That means the 3 by 4 by 6, the geometry. And then you can have a function here, and then you can actually apply this function to the structure. So depending on the value of the coordinates, it can calculate x, y, z, and assign a value to each node. It's a bit convoluted example here, but let's see here. Example 3, example 2f, that one. Download. Reset. So I select surface with edges here. I get undo. Here you can see we named it, so now it says X by Y by Z here. And now you can see here that this is the values that are calculated from this function here on this volume. I will skip that one here. In example 7 here, we have a mixed data structure here that have points, we have vectors, we have different data structure with here, so we can define points, just points without any connected to any other triangles or quads, hexahedrons, tetrahedral, polygon, triangle, quad. So here we just add a lot of different data structure into an unstructured grid. And we add vectors to this as well. And then we write this to file. So let's see if we can run this one. And that was be called example 3. Reset. And then we load. So this is just a mix of different data structures here. So you have a tetrahedral element here, you have lines, you have points. This is a line here, and I think there should be a point somewhere as well. So it's just a mix of different element types you can visualize. And here are the surfaces here. And they are colored by scale as 1. There is also a vector field here, so I can select this one here and create a glyph here to visualize our vectors. So we'll use arrow and we'll use vector fields here to show the to visualize, and then we scale them by the vector itself, and we press apply. So here you can see the vectors that are attached to the nodes in this case. So each node here has a vector attached to it. So there is no vectors attached to the cells in this case, just to the nodes. So by using PyVTK, you can actually do a lot of these things in code. So you don't have to know the data format. And just to kind of show you how it looks, let's see if we can open this one here. So this is the actual file structure of the VTK file. So it says here what version of the file is, and it says it's unstructured grid example. It's an ASCII file. It contains a dataset unstructured grid, and here there are 27 integers. There are cells. The vectors are here. So what PyVTK does is it helps you to create these files for you without you having to learn that file format yourself. And I think I stop there. You will get this tool notebook as well that you can experiment with. You can download ParaView. It's free, so download latest version. It works for Mac and also for Windows, so it's just to download and use. I will put this video here as well, so you can look at it and learn yourself. So what you will do is for the temperature problem, you will define the scalars and perhaps also the flow arrows. And if you have the stress problem, you can also visualize the displacement field. So you can export the displacement displacement vector and visualize the actual form structure in ParaView as well.